All right, we're good. Good.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, guys. How are you this morning, Randall and Danny?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Nice, nice. Me too. It has been a week. Do you guys have coffee? I have a coffee
Yeah.
this. Nice.
Got my
I got
coffee
the
right here.
local
See,
coffee shop.
this is like 90% of being a developer is coffee.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
kidding, right?
Without a good coffee maker, I don't know where we would be. Anyway,
Lost.
yeah, today is Saturday, March 9th. I had to look because I didn't know. And it's 9 a.m. So welcome to everybody. And good morning, Chris. I know Chris is here watching. He's always tuning in. Chris is like our best guy. Chris is in our mentoring, now called the Web Dev Incubator. Going with that name, I think.
I
So
like that
yeah.
name.
Yeah, I like that name a lot because it really speaks to what we are doing. We're incubating little software developers into big chicken developers, something like that. Anyway,
Hmm.
good
Sure.
morning, Chris. Um, yeah, so we have a pretty cool topic today. I made a little video today or earlier this week because I felt really inspired. I was driving my golf cart down the road. It was like this nice, beautiful day. First time in a while. It's been like hot in Florida. It's usually like warm, but first time in a while it's actually hot and blue sky. And I just felt so appreciative of my life, right? And how much my life has changed over the past few years as I've become a software developer. Like the fact that I can do things when I want to do them, right? I can work when I want to. I can ride a golf cart when I want to. I can pick up the kids when I want to. I can, all these different things I can do. And I was like thinking back upon some of the other jobs that I had in my life, and how different that was, right? And I know a lot of people who are watching this are probably feeling that right now, are feeling, um, what this job is that I'm in right now, and how I want to break free from that. Because I think you guys would agree, right, that we all were sort of in that position before we became software developers. Did you guys have the experience with that?
Dude, you feel trapped. And you have to
Yeah,
go somewhere, you feel stuck there. I hate that feeling. And there's nothing better than the freedom that comes just knowing too that once you have these skills, you can just make money any way you want, whenever you want, and it's up to you. And you're not relying on
yeah,
anybody else, and there's nothing better than that.
yeah. And you get to decide how much you make too. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the craziest things. Whenever I get work, they're like, okay, so how much do we pay you? And you just get to say a number, like whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can say $100 an hour easily. And they're like, okay, sweet, let's do it. Because
They
what I
need it
think,
done. That's the
yeah, yeah,
reality, dude.
yeah. Because I think what happens is people don't realize that you have this particular skill set as a developer that nobody else has. And as you become more skilled as a developer, you forget that other people can't do these things. They can't just whip up an app in a day and
A
make
lot of
something
people
out
can
of nothing.
barely even search something on Google.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's pretty amazing
Well,
to have
dude,
that skill set because people will pay whatever because they're like, I don't know how to do that, but I need it done. So I'm either gonna pay somebody or it's not gonna happen.
well, it's
So
crazy too to me how much at companies, how much of these full-time people too are not even really good developers. And
no,
they have jobs. And because they do, they might do one little thing all the time, but they don't really know a lot about, a broad spectrum of things or how to build a whole website or a whole web app. They know like one
yeah,
part. Yeah.
yeah. So having said all of that, I was driving my golf cart and I was just feeling so appreciative of like the opportunities that have come to me and like how my life has changed. And it made me think about our topic this week, which is, transforming obstacles into opportunities for mastering programming, right? And really, the way that I phrased it was like overcoming excuses, right? Or handling excuses so that you can progress yourself further. And so, I think that's a huge topic that we can unpack, but it's something that we hear a lot from coaching clients and people inside the group who are like, you know, a lot of times I speak with people and the first thing that they say is an excuse, right? About why
Yeah.
they can't become a developer or why this isn't, why this is particularly harder for them, or
Why now's a bad time?
right now is a bad time. I don't have
Yeah.
money for this, but I'm happy to, you know, take out a loan for a ton of money. I've heard that one a lot. Um, so it's interesting to me that there's all these excuses, and we went through them as well. And I agreeably, they're difficult to handle. They're not like, hey, just like make more money. There's things that we have to like handle with those. But I think today's topic would be great if we can talk a little bit about these sort of excuses and obstacles that many developers face and how we would go about actually transforming them into opportunities. So you had something to say, Rand. Go for it.
Yeah, I do also want to speak to the fact that it's not magic. It's not something that's unattainable. And, all three of us who are on this live stream this morning transitioned from another career completely unrelated
Yeah.
to development into development and got hired during the time of the largest tech layoffs in history.
Yeah.
So if it's possible for the three of us, then for anybody watching this, it's 100% possible for you too. But you just need to stick around and listen to what we're going to say for the rest of this.
Well, I think
and I'm gonna play the Randall role. If you are here in the live stream and you want to drop in the comments some excuses that you've had recently, or any excuses that you've come across as a new developer, we'd love to hear about those, because we can talk directly to you about them and how we would handle them.
Yeah, I wanted to say too, I think one of the biggest challenges we all face too is like life change is hard. We
Yeah.
like, we all get used to things. We all like things to be a certain way. And even when things suck, that's normal.
Yeah.
And so even a change that would be better seems scary. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, just being a person. Whenever you want to make a change in your life, dude, is you have to realize that like you have to kind of lean into it and just do it. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you'll just keep coming up with reasons, or, you'll let those fears build and that imagination run wild, and it just gets harder and harder to overcome that, especially on your own.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, it's like we're so used to just staying at like normal status, right? No change. But if you want to achieve something outside of what you're doing right now, it's going to be challenging. Like there's a challenge involved with that, but it helps you grow as a human being, right? So it feels challenging in the beginning, but then once you get to that next step, it's like easy. It's normal again. Go ahead,
I was
Danny.
gonna say too, one of the other things I was just thinking about too is like it's also hard because we also have all these beliefs that have been like kind of forced on us from society and stuff. I was thinking about that one book we were reading, like where that idea that we think that like being an employee is the easy way or the better way. And
Yeah,
it's not always the case. Like working for yourself is way better. Like, but we
it
have
is.
this built in because you've been told this your whole life, right? And
Mhm.
like so it is a lot. And like I think, or like the belief that you can't learn something new. Like all these things are kind of built into society, and you have to break free of that. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
totally.
it's so limiting beliefs. I think this is a really interesting one because I had a limiting belief for a very long time that stopped me from doing what I wanted to do for probably, I don't know, 25 years or more.
Yeah.
Like ever since I saw that movie Hackers when I was a kid, I
Hmm.
was like, I want to be that. I want to do
That's a
that.
great
That's
movie.
it.
Yeah.
But when I was young, this was pre-internet, or at least the internet was not what it is now. You didn't have YouTube tutorials. You had books on programming, and I would try some of those books, and it was like beating my head against the wall. I remember I had this book on Perl. It had a llama on it or something like that.
Hmm.
And I wanted
Yeah.
to learn Perl so bad because this was like a scripting language pre-Python. And I was like, I'm gonna learn this, I'm gonna be a hacker, this is it. And it was just like obstacle, 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 and then I gave up. And
Yep.
the limiting belief that it took to get over that was this belief that hackers are something different, that they have something
Mm.
special. And
Yeah.
like while there are some savants out there who are really, really exceptional, for the most part, it's just people who every day plug away at it.
Yeah. You make me think of this, right? Because I also had a similar experience. My first year of college, I went to school for computer programming and I quit. Like I gave up on that dream because it was too hard, right? And so very similar experience. Like I was like, I'm just not smart enough to do this. And I think the bigger thing here is not that you're not smart enough, it's that you're not putting in the time, right? Because if you start looking at where you're putting time, you start realizing that you excel in those things. Like if you put a lot of time into video games, you're good at video games, right? That's what
Yeah.
I think a lot of programmers like distract themselves with. Or I know I put in a lot of time in
You
video
know what I
games, and
was
I'm
just
like
thinking? A lot of
amazing.
people are good at a lot of people are good at video games, Instagram, and porn.
Yeah,
Like,
Yes,
and that's
right.
where they put a lot of their time. And so understanding where you're putting your time is very important, right? Because if you start putting more time towards software development, you actually see that you improve very quickly. And we can say this with Chris, who's watching right now, because Chris is in the web dev incubator, right? And he showed a few weeks ago his graph on GitHub, right? Which is a great picture because it shows how much time he was dedicating to software development prior to joining the web dev incubator and then after. And you can ask him, but I'm sure he's more than happy to tell you that he's made leaps and bounds of progress because of where he's focusing his time and his energy. And I think that's a huge one. Like, I mean, that's actually like an excuse that a lot of people have too, and I had myself too, which is a lack of time. Like they're like, I don't have enough time to do this, right? And it's not that you don't have enough time, it's that you're wasting time on other things that aren't progressing your goals. So, how much time are you spending watching TV or playing video games or doing other things when you could actually be learning software development? Now, here's the thing, it's not easy, like Randall said, right? It's staring at a book is not like the same as playing a video game, right? So we have to gamify those things for ourselves so that we remain interested or do things that speak to us more. Like I'm not a big book reader, right? We've discussed this before, but I like watching videos. So I tend to go that route, or I tend to just like read documentation because to me that makes more sense than reading somebody else's book on a topic. Um, so yeah, I think
Documentation is great, especially when I think when you already have a handle on it a little bit. The
yeah,
books, like I know, because Rand and I both like reading a lot anyway, and like the
yeah,
books are very helpful. I found when I'm starting to learn something.
yes,
Reading somebody else's because they're giving you explanations. The documentation becomes, I think, a better avenue once you have an understanding of it. But to your point, though, too, I think like just realizing too that if anybody can do it, if we can do it, anybody else can.
yeah.
It's like I think
I'm
that's the
not
worst
crazy
flaw.
smart.
Yeah, none of us are special. It's just we
Yeah,
put time in. But I think one of the biggest things too that people need to realize, like, is if you really want this, it's also goal alignment. You have to,
yes,
you have to have a clear idea of what do I want and why do I want it. I know for me, like personally, like in academia, I felt just confined and trapped because there was no matter what I did, there was nowhere else I could go. I couldn't try new things. Everything is like very bureaucratic and layered with all this crap, so you can't just do stuff. And that was killing me. And then I've always loved tech, and there's like, especially now, there's so much to learn, and there's so many things you can do. And even if you get into it and you want to change, it's easy to change. You just learn a new thing. Like it's amazing. So I think
yeah.
understanding your goals and your values and what you want can be a really good way to keep reminding yourself and get over those blocks too.
Yeah, totally. And that's something that we do also inside Web Dev Incubator is we help you figure out where you are now, where you're headed to, right? Because I think that's like you bring up a really good point is that a lot of people have this grand vision of like I'm sure you did this too, Randall, is like you want to be a hacker, but like what does that mean to you, right? There's a million
Yeah.
different types of hackers out there. So really aligning with what I want to do. For me, it was web development, right? For Danny, I think it was also web development, software development, right? So it's really figuring out because like I've had this conversation probably 100 times in the past week with people inside the group, which is like I ask them, what do you want to do? And they're like, I want to become a developer. And they're like, no, but what do you want to do with that? Because that means so many different things. So
Yeah.
understanding where you're headed is, I think, really important because then it gives you, something to shoot for and it's motivating force to say, oh, I'm going to become this, right? And I think that's, there's another sort of excuse or objection obstacle that comes up, I think, a lot for people, and that is just there's this overwhelming amount of information when it comes to software development, and it's like, where do I even start? Right? Like, what is like the place to start? You wanted to say something? Go ahead.
I mean, that's a great point because oftentimes, while the end goal is a great waypoint or a direction to head
Mhm.
in, it's often so far out from
Yeah.
where you're starting that number
Yeah.
one, it can be disheartening because you can be like, well, I'm never going to get there. And then two,
Yeah.
it can also be confusing. How the heck do I get there? And
Yeah.
that's one thing that's really helpful in having mentors or people who have done this before you is that they can help guide you in direction. Like I'll just give a personal example. So I
Yeah.
mentioned last week that I was a bit overwhelmed. And one thing that I've learned as I'm getting older is that when I'm overwhelmed, instead of trying harder, I need to stop. Like that's the signal that it's time for me to stop. So I
Yeah.
Yeah.
stopped, but during those few days that I took off, I met with two people further along in the field than where I am. Both of them have been in the
Mm.
field for 10, 15 years plus. One's like a chief information security officer. The other one is just way high up in his organization. And so I met with both of them and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I feel like I'm making so much progress. I know I'm making so much progress, but I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels.
Yeah.
And it was the most frustrating thing ever because we had like all three of us were talking. We had like such a very busy few months where we were doing so much progress, and yet I felt I was making no progress at all, no traction whatsoever. And so being able to sit down with people who have been where you are is so helpful because they gave me the clarity that I was looking for.
Well, they can
Yeah.
help you see the actual progress that you're making too,
Yeah.
which is crucial. And to the point too about there being like there is so much in tech now. Like there's so many options, so many things. And I remember like when we did the boot camp, like in some respects, I found that actually unhelpful because they introduced us to so much stuff, but it was
Totally.
like dipping your toe in to all these things, and like
Yeah.
it was overwhelming. It
Oh,
was
I
like
completely
SQL,
agree.
cloud,
Yeah.
machine learning, this, that, and it's like,
If
there's
anything,
no,
it made me more confused because I was like, how do
yeah.
all these things connect together and how do I fit into this picture? Right. And I think that's like what's really difficult as a new developer. You're like, where do I fit in? And so I
Well,
think,
yeah.
that's what we focus on a lot in our mentoring is like, what is your goal? How do you fit into that goal? And then we quarterly plan out what are you going to do to get there. Right. And I think that's something that's not a lot of people are thinking about when they're doing like self-learning is they're just like looking for the next. I mean, literally this happened a couple times inside the group this week is I had people reach out and they're like, I'm thinking about doing this Udemy course. What do you think? I'm like, I don't know because I don't know what your goals are. And, it
Yeah.
sounds to me like you're just collecting resources. Like you're just buying something for $25 online and saying, I think I'll become a developer if I buy this. And that's not how development works. It doesn't work by you just buying a Udemy course, right? All that information's free and it's out there already. You can just go on YouTube and learn anything you want to about anything. Like it's all free. You can prompt ChatGPT for literally any technology out there. You don't need any of that stuff. What you do need is a goal and a way to get there, right? And I think that's like
Yeah.
what makes what we offer way unique compared to what else is being offered out there in terms of like a boot camp and they're just teaching you stuff but they're not giving you guidance towards your goals.
What kills me too is like, yeah, they're not giving you guidance towards your goals or why you're doing it or like helping you stay motivated. And the other side of it too is like, I know like I got into this because I love creating stuff and I wanted to
Yeah,
create
me
stuff.
too.
But like the whole boot camp thing was frustrating too because like they're giving you so much stuff pre-built because they're going so fast that you're never actually building anything. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until like I started doing stuff on my own that I really saw like a real change in my learning and that curve going up. And I think that's something else we bring, which is like project oriented and getting people to
Yes.
actually from the beginning just build things because that's really how you learn. And that's where you run into
Yeah.
all the problems. And that's where you also realize that you are capable of doing it,
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Like no more copy paste coding because that doesn't
Yeah.
teach you anything, right? I want you to
No.
learn like from the beginning, from low code to medium code to high code and understand, what you're doing the whole time so that you're really feeling like you're becoming a developer, not just
Well,
sorry.
that
I'm just reading Chris's comments. He said,
yeah,
"Oh crap, you got me on gaming."
yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, gaming is fun though. But
Oh, totally.
yeah,
I'm a huge gamer.
that was always the problem too with like, Udemy courses or like LinkedIn Learning because we did some on there, where like
Yeah, yeah.
they're great. They're great resources, but the biggest
Totally.
problem, or even YouTube tutorials, but like the biggest problem is most people don't code everything out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, especially the courses you buy, a lot of them come with, pre-coded stuff, resources that you can use because, it
Yep.
says the course is 2 hours, but if you code the whole thing out, it's like 5 days. It takes
Totally.
a
Yeah.
long time,
Oh,
Not to
especially when you're
mention,
new.
not to mention, you don't see the process that person went through to develop the
Nope.
whole thing. You literally just see
Yeah.
the finished shiny product that they have
Yep.
at the end. So you have
Yep.
no idea, like that can be one of the most disheartening thing for new developers is they see this pristine project that is
Yeah.
just like incredible. And they're like, they go through the course, they follow along, and at the end they've done it, but they have no idea how the person arrived at that area. Whereas
Yeah.
like when you actually can watch people go through this step by step, all of a sudden you see the methods that they use, and then you can follow that trail as well.
Yeah. It seems like magic when you see that because you're like, how is this person just pulling this code directly out of their head and it's like perfect. Like it and it seems amazing. And that's not the
Yep.
truth. That's not the reality. There's iteration in coding. You write something, you refactor it again, you change things, you change margins, you know, it's constantly changing. So it is like, you know, a big falsehood that is injected into all of those tutorials. So
But I
yeah.
think you're right too, that like learning how to actually put a project together, that's a huge skill that takes time and learning how to like
Oh
mock
yeah.
it up and develop and do it right. And I think, yeah, it's something we bring in. Chris made, he said, he said from day one in the incubator, you guys had me doing a project and it was a huge leap from free code camp, right? Because,
Yeah.
it's something on his own, it's something new, and it's something where you're going to learn all these things along the way so that you can actually build on your own later. You're not relying on somebody else to do all the work, all the, pre-work for you and everything.
Yeah, totally. So
I do want to speak to the philosophy of obstacles because
Mhm.
this is something that for most of my life I was struggling with obstacles because I saw obstacles as something holding me back from this goal that I wanted.
Mhm.
And the obstacles are this terrible thing, and I just need to do whatever it takes to get through this obstacle because it's holding me back from my goal. And then one day, uh, I heard a saying that this is the price of your goal. And
mm,
these obstacles that we encounter, and everyone's going to encounter obstacles on their journey, this is actually the price of that goal that you want. And that little switch did something in my mind because all of a sudden I stopped struggling against the obstacle. The obstacle was no longer my enemy. This was just the price I have to pay. Like when you go out and you buy a new iPhone, there's a price associated with it. You pay for it in a certain amount of dollars, but most
yeah.
people don't mind paying that price because they enjoy having the phone. It's the
It's
same
another cold
thing
night
with these
on side of
obstacles
Everest.
that are, yeah, it's these obstacles and your goal. If your goal is worth it, once you recognize that this is the price, it's not that big of a price to pay.
Yeah, totally.
Also, obstacles, like I think one of my favorite philosophers, Nietzsche, said, that they're a chance for us to overcome ourselves. Every obstacle is a chance to level yourself up, to learn how to do
Yeah.
something you couldn't do, and to prove to yourself that you have those skills to do it. And I think no matter what the obstacle is, whether it's confronting your limitations and fears, or whether it's solving a really difficult coding problem, or whatever it is, we're always leveling ourselves up through these obstacles. That's how we really learn.
Yeah. I want to say this. It doesn't stop when you become more senior
Nope.
too, because this actually happened to me this week. Like I had a project come to me who was interested in hiring me and they wanted me to build a mobile app for them. And I don't typically build mobile apps. I build mostly websites, but I didn't say no. I said yes because I saw it as an obstacle that I can overcome and learn from it, right? Now I'm going to learn Capacitor JS, which is a framework for turning web apps into mobile apps, right? And so when, obstacles come to you, don't see them as like I'm not good enough or I don't know that. See it as a challenge. Just like in a video game. When you turn on a video game, you don't know how to play the game, but you play it until you fail and then you try again and then you try again and then you try again and by putting in that time and effort focused on that one thing you become exceedingly good at that video game and then it feels super easy and that's exactly how development is, right? It's the
Yeah.
same exact thing. It's like you go in, you're going to fail. The first project you make is going to look like a dumpster fire, like garbage, right? And that's normal. I built like probably 30 different profiles in my
Yeah.
life, like portfolio websites. It's totally normal, right? Because that's how you become better. And that's just part of progressing. So I totally get that because when we start, we have this imposter syndrome of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not a great developer. I don't have the skills. But listen, nobody's born a developer. right? There's no like there's no baby who's like coding out of the womb. It's not how it works. They put in time and effort, and some people put it in earlier than others, but that doesn't mean that you can't do that.
Oh, I want
Yeah.
to speak to that real quick because we all did transition. Obviously, later we had different careers, we went through different things, and I think sometimes too, it's like we have to remind ourselves too that we just might not have been ready at the time too. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes that's also college is really young in our lives, dude. It's like we're
Yeah.
not even fully developed. Our brains aren't fully developed. We're not adults. Life experiences haven't come. So I think sometimes it's just, you just need that time to get to a point where you're mature enough to do this thing on your own and to actually learn on your own. So don't look at it as a setback either. We live way longer. You can have multiple careers in your life and still be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. You guys got any other excuses that have come up for you? No? I do.
I do too.
I have a couple. Go ahead, Danny. What do you got?
I mean, the imposter syndrome is a big one. And I would think I think that one's probably one of the harder ones to deal with too. And I think for me at least, a lot of times coming up against that was just like looking outside of myself at other people, seeing that they're able to do it and recognizing that, I'm only just my separation between them is just time and practice.
Yeah.
And reframing it that way to kind of see myself in their shoes and imagining myself there is a very helpful way for me dealing with that.
Yeah. I have another one, and that is perceived cost, right? So I think for many new developers, there's like this perceived large cost. And I mean like monetary cost, not like time or anything like that. I mean like actual monetary cost in becoming a developer. Like most developers are under the assumption that you have to do a boot camp or you have to go to college to become a developer, right? And these institutions want you to believe that because that's how they make money. And agreeably, we also charge for our incubator, but we charge significantly less. We charge $200 a month for our incubator, which is like the cheapest thing you will ever get, and it probably won't stay that way for a long time, to be honest, because we can already see the value that people are getting out of this. And like as more people join, there's only three of us. We don't have infinite time to dedicate to this. So but I think that's a really important point, right? Is that like I touched on this before, but the reality is this: a college degree and a boot camp, no employer in the world actually cares about those. They're not like I've never had somebody be like, "What college did you go to?
No.
They give me work," or like, what boot. Nobody cares. They care about the quality of your work, and that's one of the benefits of software development is that it doesn't matter at all, right? Like none of that stuff matters. What does matter is what we've been talking about, which is where your focus is, how much energy you're putting into it, right? Are you playing video games for 5 hours and then coding for a half hour? Or are you doing the opposite, right? Because that shows in your quality of work, and people pick up on that really quick. And once you do have that sort of network of people, the network effect is huge. Like I know Chris is already seeing this in our group where he's like building a karate website for a local business, and he even said this week. He's like, yeah, they're already like all the parents are seeing the website. They're frustrated with the former website. And once they see the new one, they're going to be like, hey, these are business owners. These are people in the community who need websites. I'm pretty much everybody needs a website, even if they're just a regular person. So there's not a huge cost involved with it. A lot of this information is free. What is costful or what does cost a lot of money is your time, right? And so using that time wisely is, I think, one of the biggest benefits to getting inside the incubator is that we can help you figure out how to use your time in the right way to get towards your goals, because none of these things are teaching you that, right? There's no YouTube tutorial on like how do you become a web developer and like build out a quarterly plan towards doing that. Your boot camp's not going to do that, and your college degree is definitely
Dude,
not going to do that.
my biggest frustration always in academia, I've been in there for a long time, is nothing practical is emphasized.
Yeah.
Zero.
Oh,
It's like
totally.
ridiculous, dude. And like, so you put these people through and then you throw them out in the world and they don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's insane,
And they
you
don't
know?
care at that point. They're like, yeah, we
No, they
got
don't give.
money.
They don't care. All
Now
they
you
care
just
about is
owe
the money
us.
now.
Now you just got to pay off these loans, sucker. Have fun with
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
you know? So, go ahead,
Talking
man.
talking about that, now's about the time where for everyone listening, we make you an offer that you can't refuse. So for everybody listening out there, it's March 9th, 2024. How would you like to be a paid web developer by March 9th, 2025?
I would like that.
In 1 year, you could become a paid developer, absolutely risk-free, zero risk, working with us in our web dev incubator. If you're interested, check it out, codenoobs.io/mentoring, because there is an update to that site. You might want to check it out for yourself, see what's included. And like I said, this is something where no other program that I have ever seen will make this guarantee. This guarantee
No.
is so crazy that you would have to be absolutely mad bonkers not to take us up on it. But
Yeah.
we guarantee 100% that you'll be a paid developer within a year, or you can keep working with us for free until you do become a paid developer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the guarantee goes beyond that too. If you don't enjoy it within the first month, we will just give you your money back because we don't want people inside the incubator who are not enjoying it. So try it out and see how it works for you. And if you don't feel like it's working, that's fine. We'll give you your money right back. But I also wanted to say this. If you are sort of on the fence and you want to learn more about it, we're happy to have a conversation with you. Just give us a quick ping on Facebook. Reach out to us and say, hey, I'm curious a little bit more about this web dev incubator. Can you give me some details? We'll even jump on a call with you and like talk you through and help you figure out like what is your path? Because I think that's something that's tough too, is like, why do I want to jump in a program if I don't know where I'm going yet? And so that's part of our call with you is like, we'll help you figure out where you want to go and how you can get there. And then, if you want to try out the incubator, we're here for you. And but I would say this, it's not going to be this price forever. Like it's really not. We're going to be
No.
increasing this soon. So if you guys are thinking about it, now is the time to take up the offer. And yeah, like I don't think there's anyone else out there who's like, yeah, you'll become a developer in a year. I haven't seen anything like that before.
We all went to the cheapest boot camp, and it was $5,000. The
yeah,
cheapest
exactly.
boot camp.
Yeah.
It was $5,000.
And that's like, I mean, multiply that out
which
for a
is
year, and that's not even
double
even
the
half
price
that.
of
Yeah.
what we're charging right now.
Yeah. So you're just not going to get that anywhere else. And the other thing that we do is like, which you don't get in a boot camp, is we help you earn money while you're doing it so that you're actually like not even really paying for it. You're just working as a developer, and that's like covering your cost of the incubator. So if you're curious, just let us know. Head over to codenoobs.io/mentoring. We'd love to have you in the group and do more than just this call, right? Because there's so much more interactive. There's a bigger interactive piece of that mentoring. So you guys get to talk with us directly and become a developer, because that's the goal, right? I think everybody in the group here wants to become a developer. So with that, thank you guys. That was a great episode. We'll be back next Saturday at 9 a.m. I actually won't, because I'm going to Mexico.
Woo!
One of the benefits of being a developer is you get to go on vacation when you want to. So I'm going to Mexico. But I will probably see you in the mentoring next week. But if not, I'll be inside the group sending some pictures from Mexico, eating tacos and drinking margaritas. Because isn't that awesome? I can code on a beach in Mexico and like nobody cares. Pretty sweet. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Love you guys. Have a great rest of the day. And if you are in the web dev incubator, we will be seeing you in about a half hour. Cool.
Peace.
Peace, guys.
Later.